Hey humans, how's it going? Susan Ruth here. Thanks for listening to another episode of Hey Human Podcast. This is episode 428, and my guest is Andrea Landi. Andrea is the president of Landi Technologies, a multinational eco-mobility company that is dedicated to moving the natural gas industry forward and to support advocacy for public policies that advance alternative vehicles and fuels. Landi wants to make low-emission cars and small trucks the standard around the world with alternative fuel systems like compressed natural gas, renewable natural gas, and hydrogen. Really interesting conversation. A friend of mine actually drives a car that is run on hydrogen and loves it, first of all. And after talking with Andrea, I have to say I went into a bit of a deep dive, learned a lot more. I really recommend you do that as well. Such an interesting man, first of all, and I think what they're doing is really exciting. Landi Technologies is really exciting, and I think it's necessary. I think we're moving in that direction. So I'm excited for you to hear this episode and do your own deep diving and learning more about alternative ways to make a car go. You know what they call a car with an S on it? Escargot. All right, moving on. Hey Human Podcast is on YouTube under official Susan Ruth. I'm on Patreon at Susan Ruthism. Definitely check that out and join Patreon and be a support for Hey Human. It really helps keep the show ad-free and all that good stuff. TikTok, I'm on there under Susan Ruthism. HeyHumanPodcast.com for links and to learn more about my guests in the show. Check out SusanRuth.com to learn more about me and my other artistic endeavors, including my short film, The First, which it is going to festivals, and you can come see me at the festivals. Check out that on the website and go see the film. That would be great. Follow Susan Ruthism in general on social media and find my albums on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, wherever you get your music. Rate, review, and subscribe to Hey Human Podcasts wherever you get your podcasts. All right. Thank you for listening. Be well, be kind, be love. If you are in the United States, register to vote. Make sure you vote. It's coming up quick. All right. Here we go. Andrea, welcome to Hey Human.
Hi, Susan. Thank you very much for having me here. Since we got introduced, I listened to your podcast, to some of your episodes, and congrats. I really like it. I mean, I really love the format and the fact that, you interview people from all kinds of background and interesting stories, free flow conversation. I really like it. So I'm very excited to be part of it. So really, again, thank you very much for having me on this.
Well, I appreciate that kindness. Thank you. This is very nice. Are you hailing from California right now?
Yes, I'm in Torrance. That's where my office is.
Let's jump in. I like to start these always asking you about where your childhood experiences were, what shaped you as a kid.
Yes, I was born in Italy, in Reggio Emilia, famous for being the home of Parmigiano-Reggiano cheese. Yeah, northern Italy, actually in an area called also Motor Valley. There's a lot of companies involved in the automotive industry. The most famous are Ferrari, Lamborghini, Ducati. So very, very automotive-oriented area. That's where my company actually was launched by my grandfather. And so I was born there. I've been here in Los Angeles since 2010, so almost 15 years. They went by very, very quick. I was supposed to be here just to launch what is now my company and then go back to Italy, but 15 years later, 2 kids later, I'm here. I feel like, an adopted Californian for sure. Yeah, really like it here.
We've got the wineries. A lot of the feel of it, I imagine, it's sort of comforting.
A lot of similarities for sure. A lot of similarities. Yeah. We have, mountains and the ocean, very, very close by. And yes, the wineries, good food. good ingredients. So
we even have olive groves in Ojai.
Is that where you live in Ohio?
I live in Santa Monica, but I like to go to Ojai. It's quite
Yeah, I love it too. I love it too. Ohio, yeah. And so definitely, yeah. But weather is definitely better here, and for me, it's an important factor. Yeah, I grew up in northern Italy where winters were cold and foggy, and some people like it, and it's very beautiful. I'm not gonna deny that, and I love. We were just there for vacation. We had a great time, and so yeah, I mean it's still beautiful, and but at one point you decide you are where you have to be, and my adult life it's been mainly here, and again my kids grew up here.
Do they speak Italian?
They speak Italian, yeah. Since they were born, always, for me, it was very natural to speak in Italian. So yeah, they're fluent.
Did they do this a lot with the hands?
Yeah, they're dramatic, especially my daughter, for sure. Yeah.
I love that. Hey, you grew up in it sounds like just from the little bit I've read about you, you grew up in a tight family.
That's right.
Your grandfather was the patriarch and everyone sort of looked to him, or was it a grandma and grandpa equally the leaders of the family?
Definitely my grandfather, although I never met him, is the reason why I'm here today, because I moved here for work, and he had started this company, Landi Renzo, because he was a self-taught engineer growing up in Italy. During World War II, there was shortage of gasoline in Italy, and the area where I'm from, the Emilia-Romagna region, was rich of natural gas. So at that time, people were thinking about alternative. Okay, there's not gasoline, and so people were thinking about alternative. And my grandfather, a self-taught engineer, had come across this technology, natural gas for vehicles, and started to study it and started designing components, parts, to essentially transform and make gasoline vehicles run on natural gas.
Ahead of his time, really.
Yeah, it was ahead of his time, especially because, well, at that time, really the main driver for people to utilize this technology was, first of all, was more available, because after the World War II, there was shortage of gasoline. So it was more available. It was cheaper compared to gasoline. And so, but he was always, no, but this is good for the environment. This is better for the environment. And people were like, but what? Who cares? What are you talking about? And I remember my grandmother telling me these stories where they used to make my grandfather started a company in a workshop with his wife, my grandmother. And so he was the genius and technical guy. My grandmother, she was, the accountant and admin office person, and they were putting together the first brochures for the company. And so they had these pictures with components and the drivers. It's good for your engine. It's good for your wallet. It's good. And then my grandfather always wanted to add no pollution. And my grandmother was always fighting with him because nobody cares. We don't need to do it. And he goes, please, come on. I think it's important. Things will change. He said, whatever. And here we are 70 years later, where, environment is definitely a big part of it. He was really ahead of his times, and he set up he built one of the first labs in the world focused on analyzing pollutant emissions. And back then, when he was doing that, people were really calling him crazy. I mean, what are you're wasting your money? But that's actually how got the attention of some important companies. Mitsubishi was really the first company that wanted to cooperate with him. And yeah, unfortunately, he passed away. He died before. I met him. He died in the mid 70s. And my grandmother, all of a sudden, found herself a widow with 2 kids to raise and a company to run. As you can imagine, mid 70s, and frankly, even today, a woman, a widow, two kids in the highly dominated highly male dominated industry, like the auto industry. It wasn't really something easy, and everybody around there they were telling her, listen, you got to sell the company. What are you doing? You can't continue yourself. You're a woman. What are you doing with a company? You have to raise your kids. But she was very stubborn, and she didn't sell the company, and she continued actually to grow the business, and then the rest is history, because the company continued indeed to grow. The attention for the eco-mobility grew, so the company continued to grow, and then she actually became one of the very few women knighted by the president of Italy. So
Wow.
yeah, she was a cool woman. She passed away last year, but she had a great life.
And what's her name?
Giovannina.
Oh, beautiful name. It's always hard, I think, when somebody leaves our family, when they pass on, but especially somebody that has that big of a presence.
Yeah, she was a cool woman, interesting businesswoman. She traveled the world speaking very little English, and mainly she was proud to say, I mainly spoke my dialect, dialect of Reggio Emilia. But yeah, no, she was business savvy. She was also very cool. She was a tarot reader. Before an important business deal, she was always reading tarots.
She sounds awesome.
Yeah.
When you grow up with the family business, how many siblings do you have?
I have one brother, younger brother. Yeah, he lives in Italy. Yeah, 6-year difference.
When you have that family business, I don't think it matters what the business is or even how successful it is. There is this idea for the children and the grandchildren that they must be in that pipeline. Was it a no-brainer for you? That's something you were already impassioned about, or did it take some convincing?
I have to say, I never felt that pressure, and I agree with you, but I never felt, at least from my experience, I grew up in it, obviously, and following occasionally my dad in business trips. But for me, it was nice to travel a little bit. I never really saw the business side of it. Also, when I was in college, I wasn't thinking, okay, I'm gonna do that. And I knew that at one point I would have to do something, but then I studied in Italy and in Spain, in Barcelona, and that really opened, my mind to, the world, and then meeting all people from all kinds of backgrounds. And then at one point I had to, I graduated from college and I had to do something.
Business or engineering?
Business.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not very technical. I pretend between you and I and your listeners that I'm an engineer sometimes. No, obviously, I learned from very skilled engineer, but no, I'm not a technical person, business person. At one point after college, I had to do something, so I started working for the company. I really liked the traveling aspect of it, connecting with a lot of culture, and then thankfully, I would say, when I started working, really the environmental attention for the mobility, the eco-mobility was really growing. So it was great to start working in an environment where, again, it was going more and more towards sustainable mobility.
Your company doesn't just concentrate on, no pun intended, natural gas, but also hydrogen?
A little bit, everything. So we're really technology neutral. Actually, today we launched a new website of Landi Technologies.com, and it's really, we're really technology neutral company. So we started from that technology because that was available at that time. But then the know-how with mechatronic components really expanded into other technologies. The first evolution was with hydrogen and hydrogen fuel cell. We started working with the General Motors in the mid 2000s. who was a customer already of ours, and they chose us to develop some mechanical and electronic components for hydrogen fuel cell vehicles. So from then, hydrogen fuel cell is an electric vehicle. So we really started to obtain know-how also for EVs. So developing electronic components for EVs. So today we're really a technology company that we're expert in the different powertrains. For example, in US, our main business is commercial vehicles. So we really understand commercial vehicles, and we can really guide customers. Okay, this is the best solution for you. I think in the future, well, already now, but there will be a variety of technologies where, different powertrains, electrics, hydrogen, renewable natural gas, renewable fuels, synthetic fuels, all these different powertrains will coexist, and with the common denominator, which is the eco-mobility, the eco-friendliness. Every vehicle is different, every fleet is different, so they need to do different type of works, activities, and we need to be really open-minded, and because there's a technology for everything, not all the eggs in one basket, and we help companies understanding what their needs are and what the sweet spot is.
I imagine down the road, even though now it's commercial is the focus. And when you say that, I'm assuming you mean like trucking and things like that?
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yes.
So down the road, when it does come to personal vehicles that everyday people might drive, I imagine it's got to be difficult to bring people into, even though it started way in the past, bring them into a future where they're comfortable with it, because, they hear things like hydrogen or even natural gas, like, oh, that makes houses explode, or, whatever that is. How do you help community get on board?
Little by little, I think. And I was listening to the podcast that you did recently with Ed Begley Jr.
Yes.
And you said, like tiny steps.
Yeah.
And I think, really it's, there's pros and cons right now of all the technologies. Okay. So I think at one point you have to, as a company, as a fleet, as a person, you have to start somewhere. Okay. So you have options now. Some are better than others, depending of what you do with your vehicle, whether it's personal or commercial. But I think, again, we need to push the message of the eco-mobility and being open-minded. So I think, again, little by little, we all have to do our part, and and learning and understanding really, okay, where's the sweet spot and what makes it more efficient from the environmental standpoint.
Is that why California was the choice of where to have the company? Because California being on the forefront, I think they have a goal, right? That at least for cars produced at a certain year, they're going to be electric all the way.
California historically has always been very attentive to the environment, very close to this to the evolution of eco-mobility. So California Resource Board, which is the main agency in the automotive industry that really regulates the emission. Again, my grandfather was thinking about it 70 years ago, and that's why we have always had a great relationship with these agencies. But CARB is based here in California. We thought that this was really the place to be. At that time, also, we've been here since 2010. Really, the main eco-friendly solution was natural gas, which is now in California is almost entirely renewable natural gas, so coming from renewable resources. So the infrastructure was very well developed here in California. Even for hydrogen, for example, now there's the infrastructure in California is probably 95% of all compared to all the country. So California, for an eco-mobility company, definitely was the place to be, at least to have the main hub.
Yeah.
Small office also in Michigan where we do mainly testing. But yeah, I think this is really the hub for advanced technologies.
Knowing that petroleum is a finite resource, maybe not in my generation or your generation, but eventually there's a lot of people that are fighting hard to hold on to that, the lobbying and all of that to make the governmental agencies sort of look away from eco-friendly scenarios. How do you butt heads with people like that? When you know there's a lot of money being poured in the opposite of what you're doing.
That's right. That's right. I think again, it's based on, for us, we're lucky to have this long history in the eco mobility space, 70 years. So I think we have again, based on our experience, we have a position, a platform where we can educate people. We would like to educate people based on our experience. Again, it goes back to we do our best from a technological neutrality standpoint, because I think that's the best approach.
Explain what that means to people, because I don't know that that's necessarily intuitive.
Okay, so when I say technologically neutral, means like, okay, what is environmentally friendly for this vehicle? Because for a truck that has a crane or has a lot of equipment, a certain technology could be, eco-friendly technology could be better than another. While there's companies that they say, oh, everything needs to be hydrogen, everything needs to be electric, everything needs to be natural gas, everything needs to be synthetic fuels. So there's all kinds of specialized companies that obviously they're doing their best to bring everybody on their side. Fortunately, because of our experience, we're able to, take a step back and analyze objectively the whole environment, the whole scenario. And so I think when companies, when fleets, also with people, they say, okay, you know what? I want to have an eco-friendly vehicle. They have to ask some questions. Okay, what do I do with this vehicle? Do I go from A to B and B to A every day, work home, or do I travel a lot? Do I have a truck? Or if I'm a company, what kind of trucks do I have? So you have to ask your questions, because every technology is different, every eco-friendly technology is different, and there's the sweet spot for every kind of application. So again, with the open mind, I think technology neutral can be the equivalent of as an open mind. Go there with an open mind, with a common denominator. Okay, I want to be sustainable.
I think for the average person, they just assume, oh, it's going to be this one way or the highway, again, no pun intended, all across the board. And in this way, it's like, no, there's lots of options.
Exactly.
Options are good. It makes people feel safer and more comfortable, and like they have more autonomy. How does a natural gas engine work exactly?
Well, natural gas is a fossil fuel. Now, California, for example, has 99% of renewable natural gas, which is not a fossil fuel. And so in this instance, for example, like why it's the great things about it is that you are net zero, almost negative. So essentially you capture all the emissions coming from waste, agricultural waste, food waste and so on, all that waste that would normally emit pollutant emissions in the atmosphere. In that case, you capture them, so you remove them from the atmosphere. So you're already like doing something great there, and then you put it in a vehicle, and you're cutting emissions. You're cutting emissions there. So essentially, that's how it works. There are some vehicles that they are born already with it, with companies that they make already engines, or there's vehicles that you can transform, and yeah, it's possible to do both.
Yeah. What do you think your grandfather would say about the state of the industry today?
I think he would be very excited. I think his head, knowing the stories that I've heard, his head would spin and he would jump on any discussion on any, it would be still, I imagine, if you could, home and then thinking about, okay, this is, let me look at this hydrogen truck. Let me look at this EV truck or this EV car or this, renewable natural gas or whatever,
Yeah.
biodiesel. Yeah, I'm sure he would be very excited about this momentum in history.
Is there a plan to get the average person excited now before you even roll out those programs, or are you just waiting until you show that it works with the fleets?
Well, I think globally we're already working with cars. I think we're getting there. Again, tiny steps.
Yeah,
but that's right, because I remember when I was listening to the podcast, I said, yeah, that's true. Little by little, but that's the direction. I don't see us going backwards. Again, we're getting there. We're getting there. How fast? That I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball.
gotta get the tarot cards.
Yeah, exactly. There's this, you can't predict nature but that's definitely the direction, and that's where we're going. How fast, that we will see.
I'm so curious. A friend of mine actually has a hydrogen cell car, and it's the first one that I'd seen up close and personal. It's very slick. I cannot remember the kind of car it was, but he was so excited because he said it was going to save him a lot of money in the long run. Let's talk cash. Cash is king.
It's tricky. And again, even there, it all depends on your mission, on your needs, because there's pros and cons for everything. Like you just mentioned, hydrogen fuel cell. And first of all, I mean, I don't want to feel free to stop me anytime, because I don't want to get technical, especially.
Technical, I want technical. Bring on the technical.
I'm not a technical person, but there's hydrogen fuel cell, which is a zero emission vehicle that functions as an electric vehicle, but instead of having batteries as this fuel cell, which is kind of like a battery, let's say, but it's fueled by hydrogen and makes the vehicle run as a zero emission vehicle. But then there's also hydrogen internal combustion engine, and that's more similar to what we use, like a gasoline vehicle or another type of fuel. So there's two varieties also there, and there's pros and cons with both. Hydrogen is still expensive as in at the filling station. So someone who decides to go that route needs to understand that, okay, hydrogen is it's a bit expensive right now. And then there's a big difference between passenger vehicles and trucks. Trucks, to transform a truck, is very, very expensive. New OEM essentially are car makers, original equipment manufacturers. So there are some companies out there. I don't know if we can name names, but
I get no money from anyone, so we can say whatever we want.
No, and that's what I like of your podcast, because it's kind of like free flow, but I never know. But anyways, there's like truck companies there with the hydrogen fuel cell, very, very expensive. So and the infrastructure definitely needs to be developed. Now, the current administration issued a very important, how can I call it, big program to stimulate the hydrogen infrastructure, $7 billion to stimulate the hydrogen industry. So there's definitely a push there from the government. But yeah, the infrastructure needs to develop. It's somehow developing in California. There's almost zero outside California, but it's growing. And as a company, actually, we are involved also in the infrastructure piece with technologies for hydrogen filling station. So yeah, cost is tricky. There's even with there's always a premium for sure if you want to go eco-friendly, whether you have a car, you want to buy a car, or in the commercial vehicle space, you want to transform your vehicles, or you want to buy brand new vehicles. There's always a premium.
How much further will a cell go versus an EV versus gasoline?
The range, for example, with hydrogen, it's better because you have more range, and in terms of refilling your vehicle, it's quicker because it's very similar to gasoline. But then from again big difference, commercial vehicle, but passengers vehicle, an EV, the operating costs are much lower. The infrastructure, it's easier because you can charge a vehicle at your home. So it's definitely much easier in terms of, okay, how do I go about going places with my vehicle?
The government subsidies helps with that. I mean, I don't even remember when EVs hit the market when they started, but there was nowhere to take them. You couldn't go outside of, I imagine it was pretty much California and that was it. And then now there's, of course, places all across the country where you can juice up your battery and home, which you couldn't do that before.
Exactly. So that is growing. And I think, all the infrastructures of all the technologies are growing. So that's definitely a good sign. And in terms of cost, there's differences. And I think it all depends on your friend as a hydrogen fuel cell vehicle. I imagine it is homework, and I imagine he lives close to a hydrogen fueling station. And if you don't travel that much, well, then that's great. And I know that there were a lot of incentives for hydrogen fuel cell cars, and that helped. I think that was probably a factor for your friend. Again, we all have to find our sweet spot, and we got to start somewhere. So
this might be a dumb question. Forgive me, Mr. Hilly, my chemistry teacher from 10th grade. If water is H2O, which is two hydrogen.
Oh, now you're getting too technical already for me, with the chemical. Oh, okay, go ahead.
I wondered if you could break down water in order to create this hydrogen. Like ultimately.
Yeah, you can use water to produce hydrogen, and that's with the electrolysis, that's called the green hydrogen. Because also one aspect of hydrogen, of the debate, is that hydrogen fuel cell it's clean if the hydrogen is produced a certain way with renewable sources, like water, for example, like solar. I didn't know, again, going back to Beckley, they had like the solar oven, and I didn't even know that they were doing things like that. But anyway, so yeah, solar can be used to produce hydrogen. Right now, it's very limited, the green hydrogen production, but they're pushing it to to go that direction. Then we have the blue hydrogen, which is produced with some fossil fuels. So you have pros and cons there. Even with renewable natural gas, you have pros and cons, like with the EVs. There are pros, like in life, there's pros and cons in everything, and you need to find the most effective solution for what you need, but start somewhere.
Are motorcycles going to run on this stuff too?
Well, we actually globally work with some countries, in India especially, where they have all the three-wheelers, and they use a lot of motorcycles. There's propane three-wheelers, there's natural gas three-wheelers, there's electric three-wheelers, there's hydrogen. So yeah, definitely. I think even for motorcycle, you will continue to see a growth in alternatives, in more eco-friendly solution, and we all do our part. We could also argue that having a vintage car or a vintage motorcycle, it's sustainable because it's there. You don't buy new. You don't buy. It's kind of like fashion. You can if you vintage is very sustainable. My wife has a sustainable fashion business, so
what is it? What's it called? We can plug her here.
It's Around PR. She has a fashion PR company only for sustainable fashion.
I love it. Okay.
So yeah, so also with cars, vintage cars are in a way sustainable. So there's a lot of angles, and the common denominator should be sustainability.
Yeah, that's the word of the millennia, I guess.
Exactly. From the environment standpoint, from the economy standpoint, because spending also, like companies that they overspend and they go bankrupt to find certain things to develop certain things that they think are eco-friendly and cool, but then they're not sustainable from the financial standpoint. Well, then the whole circle it's not really reasonable. So I think we got to look at all the angles, but nothing is perfect.
What do you drive?
I have a hydrogen fuel cell car, so probably the same car that your friend has, and then I also have a gasoline car for the family, and yeah,
that's great.
Not an Italian car though, not an Italian car. Actually, no, my wife has an Italian car. Speaking of, she would kill me. Yeah, she has a vintage Fiat Spider. So,
ooh,
yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. I drove it the other night because it was so hot, and I'll drive it in the evening.
I'm glad she lets you drive it.
Yeah. Sometimes.
Tell people how they can find you and the company, and if they have questions, the best way of an outreach. Yeah,
we just launched today our new website, landitechnologies.com. Yeah, that's the website. If they have any question, there's info at landitechnologies.com, and you're welcome to, you're welcome here, welcome any questions. If you have any questions, if you have any listener, put them in touch with me, and I'll be happy to answer all kinds of questions. We have an academy also that was founded a long time ago in Italy for the eco mobility studies, where we would have classes about really eco mobility in general technology. We would have trainings for our product, but also like classes for to learn about all the different technologies. And since we established Landi here in the United States, I've tried to make as many connections as possible with universities. We worked a little bit with UCLA in Institute of Environment. The goal would be to really create a curriculum for the eco mobility studies, whether if it's engineering or something more, business or, but with the eco mobility as the main subject, because I don't think there's anything out there. So,
yeah, there are a lot of summer programs in the U.S. for kids, elementary kids and junior high school kids, to go and learn all about science. The one I went to in Washington State was called Operation Exploration. And so we spent the summer doing all sorts of projects and learning how things worked and taking it apart and putting them together. And kids love learning about that stuff. And that's like planting that seed early,
Exactly. So, yeah, little by little, I think, definitely the new generation will be more conscious about all of this. And, but yeah, no, seriously. I mean, I'm always available for questions. And
thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I know that this technology you can get down in the weeds with it, but it's good to just sort of put it into people's mind, to get something to think about, that as they're purchasing their vehicles, or even thinking about what maybe they'll get for their own children, that is something that will be in the back of their mind, planting the seed.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thank you for listening, everybody. Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Rate, review, and subscribe to Hey Human Podcast on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks. Bye.